I'm Daniel Adeyemi, senior reporter at TechCabal, and I'm excited to have this talk. This talk is actually dear to my heart, this edition of TechCabal Live. So I'll just give a bit of an introduction before we get to the conversation. All right, so for many people who are on this call, I'm sure you might have heard of TechCabal or you might not have heard of TechCabal. But then TechCabal basically speaks to both the business and human impact of technology and innovation in Africa. We do this through high quality articles, reports, and events like this. We also publish the TechCabal, that's a TC Daily newsletter, which is a comprehensive roundup of tech news and events across Africa. If you're not subscribed to it, the subscription link will be posted in the chat room. So we encourage you to go and subscribe. So we're looking forward to have this great conversation on whether tech can solve Nigeria's housing crisis. That's a very, very, very interesting question. And we have some, seasoned guests, seasoned experts on this subject from different fields that will be speaking to us. But before I introduce them to you, I would like to run through a research presentation done by TechCabal Insights. I believe it will be projected in a bit. All right, awesome. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so an interesting stat we found out is that nearly 75% of Nigerians living in major cities are tenants. I, for one, am a tenant, right? And, that's something that says a lot about the need for houses. Next slide. Yeah, and, it's a growing, considering that Nigeria is growing at a rapid pace. Nigeria is the most populous African country. And it's growing roughly at about 2.5%. It's definitely an issue where you have people looking for houses. Already there's a housing deficit, and then you have the population increasing. So the UN projects that Nigeria's population will double at its current numbers by 2050. So it's a question of where will people live, and that's a very big issue. And apart from the rising population, there are quite a number of other challenges that would hamper getting an apartment in Nigeria. For one is the high fees paid to agents. Interestingly, I think I spent like 6 months last year looking for a house. And I know how many times I had to pay fees to agents, inspection fee in quotes. So that's a thing. Duplicity of sales. It's not uncommon to move around certain streets and say, this house is not for sale. Or in some funny cases, this house is not for sale. Do not sell, for example. Do not even listen to. Sometimes people go as far as putting the names of persons, could be their child, that might want to engage in such an act. Where you sold a house that currently belongs to someone else. So duplicity of sales is something. Lack of disposable housing income is another thing. As this popular saying or quote that everything competes for food, in Nigeria or in Africa. So it's while housing is very important to many people, only the living can actually stay in a house. So people need to eat. And then of course, high cost of construction. It's not, you can't just wake up and build a house. You need to actually invest a lot, from the cost of land to building materials. So those are like issues that people face in getting an apartment. And the proptech, in order to solve this, you've had people come into the proptech space saying, we want to fix this. And it's generally, 85, the value of investment expected to go into this space by 2050 is about $85 trillion. Right, and that's actually a lot of money just to fix this. This is globally, and then currently we have about 6,000 companies in the proptech space. Proptech is short form for property tech, by the way. So that's definitely something worth knowing. And when with problems, anywhere there are problems, it's also an opportunity for solutions. So in Nigeria, the fact that this exists also means that it's an opportunity for this problem to be solved. Notably, the real estate sector contributes about 7% to GDP of Nigeria. And I think that's something that is quite notable. This is data from 2010, 2012, but still the most recent data that we can get. 7% is definitely a huge number, because there are so many sectors, and if one is contributing about 7%, that's something significant. So next, so what are the economic opportunities for the growth of proptech in Nigeria and across the world? Proptech companies have raised about 18.7 billion across about 600 deals between 2017 and 2019, with the number of this proptech transaction increasing about 33%. So that's something very significant. And in 2021, this Nigerian proptech startup raised over $2 million in investments. Not as much as fintech, but it's definitely notable. And in case you're wondering who are these proptech companies, there are quite a number of them that around, from likes of Split to RentSmallSmall to Assured Property to Estate Intel. Yeah, so this is just an overview of the space. And next. Yeah, so this is just an overview of the space for you to get a sense of the fact that there are people playing in this space, there are people trying to solve this problem. It might not feel so much like that. I mean, for example, I did say I spent 6 months looking for a house. It does not feel so much like that, but it's a very big problem, and there are different people looking to solve it. So looking forward to hearing more from our member of the people that are going to be speaking today, our guests. Before we move on to that, I'd like to point out that this short presentation that I gave was put together by TechCabal Insights, which is TechCabal's data research and intelligence unit, which provides actionable data on startups and the tech ecosystem across Africa to investors, entrepreneurs, big tech companies, regulators, and other players on and off the continent. So yeah, so that's it. All right, so now we're going to be moving to the conversation, reason why many people are here. And before we get right to it, I'd like to introduce guests who will be speaking to us on can tech solve Nigeria's housing problem? So the first person I'll just read through the names, then we'll get going. So the first person, Naomi Olaghere. Naomi is the co-founder and VP of operations at RentSmallSmall Inc. She has robust experience across diverse industries and markets, such as the real estate and proptech markets. She's accomplished at independently running a diverse portfolio of companies with record success, and she possesses strong analytical, planning, and organizational skills in development and implementation of innovative solutions to business problems. So that's about Naomi. And we have Kanyinsade Ademuson. Kanyinsade is the founder, CEO, and principal architect of Seventh Space, an architecture and alternative housing solutions company that has designed and built collaborative workspaces for companies like Florawave, Vienna Business Hub, and Star Sites, just to mention a few. Then we have Dapo, Eludire. So Dapo is the co-founder and chief operations officer at PropertyPro.ng, a Nigerian real estate and property listing website with property and houses in Nigeria for rent, for sale. Sorry, pardon. The company was founded in 2013 as tolet.com.ng. Some of you might be more familiar with that. And rounded to Property Pro in 2018. As of today, the company has raised a total of 1.4 billion in funding. And in 2018, it acquired Jumia House from Jumia Group. All right, so that's it's good to know. So this is our, and just to, before we get right into the conversation, I'd like to point out how the conversation would go. It's on the screen. So you have this panelist will talk for about 45 minutes. Then we'll open the floor Q&A for you to send in your questions and have a discussion around them. Then we'll do closing remarks. It's important to point out that so I have my colleague Daniel who's in the chat box. He's going to be moderating, sending, replying to your questions and every other thing. By the way, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A section, right? Not in the chat box, Q&A section, so we can see it and we can get to it. Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone that has been sending in. Sitemi Tokwe Idowu, a drone pilot. We have a number of persons here. We have Azubuke, who is from Detroit, Michigan. Hi. All right, so thank you, everyone. I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation. Okay, so my first question, I'm going to start with Naomi. I like the name of your company, it's RentSmallSmall. And I'm curious, how is the idea for RentSmallSmall born? And how has the company fared since it came to existence? Definitely, you have to talk about how that name came about, even though it's very obvious. But yeah.
First of all, thank you for having me here today. So basically, RentSmallSmall, the idea of RentSmallSmall was really very simple. It's really just a mindset thing. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And it's really about changing the mindset of the way people see things and do things in Nigeria. And so what we're essentially trying to pass along is that you can build wealth small. You can pay your rent small. You can do things little by little, basically. And so we're looking for what we could, use to change people's mindset of thinking that they have to have, everything together, all the money, or everything that they need to buy, whatever they need to buy, to rent. We need to change people's mindset from that. And it's all about convenience. So that's really the idea of RentSmallSmall, convenience and easy living. So that's kind of how the name came about, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does. How has the company fared since then?
Okay, so we've been in existence for about 3 years now. And I know that when we initially started, it was quite difficult because, again, the idea is that, the genesis of what RentSmallSmall is about is that you can pay your rent like monthly, so quarterly, monthly, but annually, just easier for you. And that's obviously a good thing for tenants. But on the side of the landlord, this is not something that they're used to. They're used to taking their rent upfront, 1 year upfront or 2 years upfront. So when you are, having a conversation with a landlord that has been very used to collecting their rent or his rent or her rent 1 year or 2 years upfront, and you're telling them that, they should start taking their rent 1 month, it's a new thing, and people are not, we don't embrace change, as one should. So I know that at the beginning it was a very Herculean task trying to get a lot of landlords on board, trying to really sell the benefit. But just being in the market for 3 years, learning the market, understanding the market, really engaging the minds of the stakeholders in the market, like the landlords, letting them really see the benefit of what the whole idea of RentSmallSmall is about and how it would benefit them and even benefit the economy as a whole. We've been able to make a bit of strides. We're thankful. It's an upward battle, but it's a winning one. We believe so, and we're resolute in our stance to continue in that journey, to continue changing the mindset of landlords and just really of all the stakeholders in this should I say real estate economy. So far we've made a lot of growth, and we're thankful for that.
All right, thank you very much. I couldn't help but think when you said how it would benefit the landlord. So I know how it would benefit me to not have to pay the whole money upfront, right? But for the landlord, how does it benefit them if I'm paying monthly? Just curious about that. And by the way, before you answer that, the other
yes.
panelists, if you have any thoughts,
it's a lot of things, right? And we're very. Sorry, I didn't get that.
I guess there was a lag. I just wanted to chip in that the other panelists, in case they have any contribution to a question that might not be directed at you, it's still fine to chip in. But yeah, back to you, Naomi.
Okay, so for the landlords, I mean, what we're essentially selling to them, if like what existed before, which is still very much in existence right now, actually, you have agents, so-called agents that are representatives of, landlords' properties. They don't really have the landlord's best interest at heart. They don't care about the kind of tenants they bring for the landlord. They're only interested in getting a tenant for the landlord as soon as possible so they can make their own fees or make their own money. But we RentSmallSmall, there's actually an ongoing relationship with the landlords. So we're very, very intentional about maintaining that relationship with the landlord, ensuring that we're getting you proper tenants in your building, proper verified tenants. Number 3, you're actually going to get a premium on your rent. So as opposed to taking your rent 1 year upfront, if you take your rent monthly, you're getting a premium on your rent. But aside from that, RentSmallSmall is giving you a guaranteed rent. Then if you want to look at the tenancy laws as well, if you're taking your rent 1 year upfront, and I'm trying to couch this in a way so it doesn't look like it's RentSmallSmall is only to favor the landlords, because the tenancy law is really to favor tenants, right? But when you subscribe to RentSmallSmall, what we have is the kind of agreements that we give tenants. It's a licensing agreement, so it's actually easier for us to evict a tenant from the property. And that's actually to the benefit of the landlord. So if you have a defaulting tenant now and they haven't paid their rent, we can easily get them out of the property within a week. That's one of the other benefits that landlords get. There's also that long-term preservation of their assets, because like I said again, there's an ongoing relationship with RentSmallSmall and the landlord. So we're very, very concerned about the property. Anytime we take a property from a landlord, we also take the mandate to manage the facility. So we're managing the facility, we're ensuring long-term preservation, we're ensuring that the sort of tenants that we bring on the property are properly verified tenants that can actually afford to rent these units. There's a lot of value propositions that we give the landlords, and it's something that we're going to continue to grow on, going to continue to add more for them. We're recently just created a platform for landlords to be able to even just manage their tenants, see what's coming in, what's going out, a lot of things, a lot of benefits. And luckily, they're catching up to it and they're understanding that and they're seeing that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, you're right, actually. I can imagine that some people wouldn't mind. I mean, it's easier to commit to paying a premium on what could be your annual rent monthly as opposed to shelling out that whole huge sum all at once, right? Mm-hmm. So I like the sound of that, actually. Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm aware that Lagos State, there's some debate around some law that hasn't really made headway, to my knowledge. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a fight, but I'm sure it's, to RentSmallSmall's favor if that comes true. So hopefully, yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Naomi.
Thank you.
All right. So Kanyinsade, I'm going to be talking to you as the architect, because I have seen houses. And And first question is, what kinds of solutions do you believe will be useful in addressing the affordable housing deficit in Nigeria? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, can everyone hear me? First of all, thank you for inviting me to speak on the platform. Okay, this is great. I think to answer your question straight, there are many things that we need to do. But to start and try and couch it simply, I think the first one would be designing around our actual customers. So which means when property developers develop houses, who do they develop houses for, right? If you look at the property trend today, they're developing for people who generally can afford them and hopefully trickle down into the rental market like was said earlier. However, I think that one of the major solutions we can provide is actually getting design that is centered around the average Nigerian who's generally poor, right? Which means, how do we, one, increase the speed of production? How do we get houses closer to where people really want to live? And how do we take advantage of underutilized land? So basically, you find that across Nigeria, across Lagos State, for example, there's a lot of land that is owned, but is not used. A lot of land is owned by property developers, private individuals, but you find that there are no developments on it or income developments. Part of the solution would be thinking around, one, utilizing that, creating policy that ensures that those lands are utilized. And then 3, intelligently designing for the eventuality that, those houses have to be utilized. 1, we need to produce more, we need to produce much quicker, which means that we need to figure out a way to produce in a factory, which means factory assembled production, linear production, and production that caters to the need of people while driving the prices of houses down. I think that's really the solution.
Thank you very much. Driving the prices of housing down sounds exciting to the tenants or people. So the landlords and the owner are like, nah, don't drive the price down. Yeah,
I think quite differently. If you actually look at it, right, there's a lot of skill that is required. So, for example, if a landlord can figure out a way to develop a house for, say, 5 million naira, it becomes more accessible to more people, which means that landlord has access to more tenants, which means that landlord has access to more end users. So really what we're doing is trying to figure out, 1, not just driving it down without profit in mind, but driving it down so that it's accessible for more people. I think that's really what it is. Technology, if you look at general technology, subscription in most of the other technologies, scale is the option, scale is the direction, and scale makes it more available to more people, which eventually grows the business. So it's not necessarily designing to eradicate the landlord. In fact, it is predominantly for the landlords with the mindset of designing for the end user.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good way to think about it, actually. If it's cheaper, the landlord can build more houses, the tenants can. Yeah,
exactly.
It's in nobody's really best interest that it's very expensive and only few people can. Yeah.
Exactly. So win for all. Right. I think that's really where we're pushing it to. The need is there.
Yeah.
The need is very, very present, which means that there's a market without capital. How do we bring capital and the market together, or how do we reduce the capital requirement for the market that's out there? I think that's really it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Wayne. All right, Dapo, over to you. I know that very early on, to I remember it back then. And I think my question to you is, what would you say are the biggest needs of the proptech market in Nigeria? I don't know if it just seems like, would you say, I've heard different things, right? Oh, there's a need for more housing. There's also the need to probably, the middleman agent, vetting and all of that. But in terms of biggest needs, in order to scale the proptech space beyond what it is, what would you say?
Thank you very much for having me here. For those that don't know PropertyPro, right? PropertyPro is an online search platform, right? Come online to search for properties to either buy or rent, right? So let me just jump straight to the question, right? In terms of needs for the proptech industry, I think being able to gauge a problem, in the real estate space is very important, and being able to know the problems you want to solve and the scale of that problem is actually key. And one of the things that has not really been there, in proptech space is data, centralized data. In terms of, you really don't know, you really can't tell how many people have bought a house today, right? Or how many offers have been put on a house today, right? Also with the fact that you can't tell, how many properties were rented out today. You really can't tell, the movement of the market. You can't tell the amount of activities that is going on. The data we have out there are just, collected from individual, but it is not, centrally organized, or it is not enforced. The collection is not enforced by the government. And without data, you can act in silo, right? By saying, oh, this is the problem my own business model is facing, right? And I'll try to go at it from that particular perspective. But what if some other effect, or what if some other activities are affecting your business model, which you can find from a generally sourced data or an enforced collection of data? So I feel that from my own point of view, one of the major issues that we have, is access to centralized data, or even enforcing collection of data in the first place. And real estate, the second thing I would point to, I would say that the real estate space still requires more trust, especially from the users part of this, the people consuming, down to the business side of things, right? The fact that liquidity in the real estate space is not enough, right? It's not big enough. So everybody is very careful of how they spend, how they actually buy, and who they buy from. A lot of scrutiny goes into search, into closing of deals, right? So that ability, or that enabling environment, to let deals flow appropriately and work within timelines, and everybody can manage their timelines and when deals will close, is really important. So, these are my two factors I would say that, we have issues with, that can help us, aid the growth of, PropTech industry. Data, centralized data availability, and creating an enabling environment for trust within the industry.
All right, thank you, Dapo. That's very insightful. I didn't even think, data, you're very right, because I know one thing about looking for a house is that one moment it says available, next moment it's not available, right? So if you don't act fast back then, it's like if you don't go immediately, tomorrow and next 1 hour it could be taken to even know how many houses are available. And so those are like things that I guess
that still happens to you, because the rental market is still the biggest part of the market, right? Over 75% or 80% of people actually rent. What am I saying? Even more than that, right? And at the end of the day, properties, for example, properties are listed on PropertyPro today. In 24 hours, 48 hours are gone, right? And the accessibility to that information for the user to be able to tell that it's gone, it's not there, except the agent comes and takes it off from the platform. The platform can try, and create an expiry system, but nonetheless, you cannot really tell, right? There is no way you can enforce, except you have to create an operational nightmare for you to accurately get, insight to the availability of properties on a real-time basis. So it still happens to you today.
Yeah, right. Actually, it's a collaboration between the platform and the agents. Actually, once it's gone, the agents, signifies. But hey, not every agent is that savvy, tech savvy, and you're right. And trust, trust is a big thing, right? But many houses who have this house is not for sale. That says a lot about trust, actually. All right, thank you very much, Olaghere. Back to Naomi. How do you think the PropTech market has evolved since starting out in 2018? How has it evolved? PropTech market in Nigeria.
So, time is a beautiful thing when you're able to, should I say, use it well. I believe that starting from where we are to where we are now, there's been a lot of collaboration. The property technology, I always believe, it's not like I always believe, this is, it's subsectored into different segments. You have the financial segment, you have the construction segment of the property market. So it's really about now understanding that collaboration is very key. And you see that a lot of property technology company is starting to understand that and is taking advantage of that, collaborating with different stakeholders in the property technology space. And that has really helped in just development and the growth of where we are, or from where we were before to where we are. So there's definitely been a lot of growth, a lot of new innovative thinking, collaboration. So, just even thinking about a lot of just where we are now and there's been a lot of growth, and I think you have to pay a lot of that to the collaboration that has been happening. So that has really, really helped. I definitely believe that.
Right, and just to piggyback off that, I know that some of the most important products that you've launched are buy to let and furniture, right? So can you tell me, just say a bit about what has inspired to launch this product? I can imagine it had to be the evolution of the space.
Exactly. So buy to let, when you look at, I mean, I don't know if you know much about what buy to let is about, or furniture. These are products that we came up with because there was a need in the market for it. So buy to let is really addressing, it's also, what I initially mentioned when I was talking about what really RentSmallSmall is about. It's, it starts in small. You don't need to have everything before you can purchase a property. And that's what really buy to let is about as well. The same thing about furniture. It's really selling convenience, where RentSmallSmall is about selling convenience, and that's really what all of our products addresses: convenience, easy living, and being able to do things easily. And so if you look at buy to let now, it's a lot of collaboration, again, collaborations with developers, collaborations with, developers in the space to provide affordable housing. Same with furniture. Like if you look at in Nigeria now, if you want to furnish your apartment, you have to pay a foot and an arm just to be able to furnish your apartment. And so where RentSmallSmall comes in again is that convenience, is making things easier for people. You don't have to have everything, you don't have to have all the funds ready or available to be able to buy this furniture. You don't have to have all the funds available to be able to purchase a property. And so that's really the idea of all of the products that we come up with. It's really addressing the need in the market, the need of the affordability need, again, speaking to how things are difficult for people in the country. So anytime we're creating products, we're thinking about, okay, how can we address this problem? How can we address this need? And so every product that we come up with is really, it's really thinking about that. That's the core, that's the center of why we create this product. So buy to let, that's what buy to let is about. It's properties, bringing properties, but also allowing it to be easy for you to purchase this property. Same for furniture. You don't have to have your money up front. You can rent to own this furniture. And so those are really the key things to all of these products that you see.
Thank you very much. I think the common thread I see is instead of paying lump sum, being able to spread it out, which is very useful. Yeah. And I think this is something that it will be very useful for people to know, because I know it's one thing to get the house, another thing to furnish it, right? And those are two separate costs. A lot of times there's a lot of focus on just rent, but hey, you have to live in a comfortable house. So yeah. All right. So Coin, over to you.
Have to spend.
Yeah, you can finish your thoughts.
Oh yes, I was just gonna end by saying you shouldn't have to spend, your whole savings just to be able to have a property, just to be able to furnish that property. And so that's really where RentSmallSmall comes in.
All right, thank you very much. So over to Coin. Sorry.
Curious.
Yeah, Coin. Okay, so what are the biggest mistakes or misconceptions that new entrants must be aware of making when it comes to this space? And I know, like I said, I've seen many houses, and I feel like there's like this agreement when if you're building houses for people, you just make them in a particular way, right? Because they're trying to maximize economic value or something. But curious, yeah. New entrants in this space.
Before I answer that question, I actually want to just touch briefly on the question that you had asked Naomi earlier, which is the evolution that we've seen in this proptech space. Quickly, I want to say, one, there's definitely been a lot of growth. There's a lot of growth predominantly in the service end of this provision, which is on catering to the demand, right? Which means the software technology has increased. As was said earlier, data has also been increased. However, I find that we're lagging on the hardware technology end of things, which means on the production end of things. How are we innovating around how we build? We've been building the same way in Nigeria for as long as I know. there's been a lot of, contributions, marginal contributions in trying to evolve the way we build. So I would say, one, I would love to see a lot more growth, a lot more investment, a lot more attention being put into figuring out how to build quickly and better for our people. Now, to answer the second question about what the end user needs to focus on, I think the first thing I would point out is, one, we need to, I guess, disassociate our minds from what a conventional building is. I don't think that the end user, from my own little research, has any problem with standardized housing. So houses that look the same way. I think what they have a problem with is the quality of what's being provided. I'm sure Naomi's business also has experienced this a lot, where they take on rental properties without even really knowing what's inside the walls when they take it on, So I think really being able to drill down into standardized production, which is really what I'm an advocate for. Now, the reason why I advocate for this is there's only one way. The brick and mortar has certain limitations to it. No matter how quickly you want to build, there are certain laws of nature you have to follow. Cement takes time to cure. They're just different things that you need to do. Now, if we look at different technologies or building technology methods using different materials and materials that we can research and create here within Nigeria that are suitable for our own environment. I like to say an African solution for African problems. That's how I see it. I think that it's very, very important for the end user to also, one, be willing to experiment on a different housing typology, especially if it solves their problems. Number two, be more open to finding different ways of accessing credit. And then three, for the providers, because I speak on the supply end of things. On the supply end of things, become a lot more compassionate about our design process and about our building process with the end user in mind. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's my 2 cents on.
Yeah, thank you. That's very useful. I think that's the point about building. Yeah, we're building houses the same way. And only until I think last year I did subscribe to a newsletter about construction, and I found out that there's around construction that is beyond what we know. And it's very possible to keep on doing things the same way, because that's how you know about it. So thank you. It's very, very instructive there. So
Can
down to Dapo.
Sorry, 1 second. Just quickly add on that. I think it's an inevitable thing. We really just have to evolve around the way we build. There's a limitation. I think the last statistics I checked were producing about 250,000 houses across the country a year. The need way exceeds 22 million people who need adequate housing. At that production rate, we will never be able to solve this problem. It really doesn't matter who gets involved building the same way, we will never be able to solve the problem. And so we as a company, my company 7 Space, we produced a product called Omi. And what Omi has done so far is experiment around, first of all, figuring out how to standardize and build quickly. Currently, we're able to build one of our units in 10 days, but we're trying to optimize for quicker ways to build. So I think that just having more people in that space thinking around the building and the type of housing would really help. Would drive this conversation forward.
Wow, 10 days. Sounds good. Wow. That's a new one, and that's not a container, because I think in terms of innovation, I've heard about container houses and a couple of things. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Nice. I'd definitely like to learn more about the 10 days house, right? Because I'm sure there are questions about 10 days. I hope it's going to last long, right? But yeah, but you're an architect. But yeah, definitely I agree with you on that. Things have to change. Now to Dapo. How has the country's economic realities influenced the kind of business decisions that PropertyPro has had to take, especially with a service as sensitive as housing?
Basically, let me first commend what Kanyinsade is doing. Like, building a house in 10 days is like magic in Nigeria. So kudos to you for making that happen, right? And I would like to know more about it. I would like to really know more about it, and probably we can work something out. But back to the question in terms of the real estate sector in tandem with the current economic challenges we're facing. within the past 2 years, it's been an up and down situation in the real estate space. During the COVID time, it was chaotic initially, right? Things were altered, right? But because the money market was kind of down, right? Everybody kind of looks for other ways to invest their money, and real estate was the place everybody could go to, because either there was pandemic or not, it was going to grow in value. Even if the growth is not great, it will eventually catch up, right? And back then, you could hear that before certain foundations are being done, properties are sold out. But since after the pandemic, we've experienced very slow growth in that area, in terms of sales. It's kind of gone back to what it is, right? It's kind of gone back to what it is because things are getting back to normal and all of. So there are more options these days for everyone to actually invest their money. And so taking it back to Property Pro, the whole economic challenges, right, initially affected us, but during the COVID time, all agents realized that they needed online platforms to actually do business, right? So everybody rushed online, right? Thank God we had a platform that was prepared to receive, such crowd, right? So it worked for us. We grew, our numbers actually grew, and that actually affected the continuous growth we're actually experiencing today from a Property Pro perspective. But, since the whole thing is back to normal, expectations around sales have kind of dropped, or deliverables in terms of leads from a platform perspective have kind of dropped. So we realized that, okay, there might not be a lot of growth around businesses subscribing to our platform, majorly for sales activities, right? So, and also we know that the rental market is actually a huge part of the country, is a huge part of, the industry. So what we did as a platform is to use our ability as a platform to grow in terms of width by, partnering with a lot of complementary services, like finance industry in terms of mortgages, in terms of, rent financing and all that. So, so we have been able, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. So we have been able to, spread, we've been able to grow, in terms of width by partnership. We were just running a basic subscription, platform. People come to online, search, we sell products to developers. But right now, we are open to create more liquidity or show more, give people more awareness around getting access to liquidity, especially in the sales industry, especially for those that want to buy properties, right? So our partnership right now is the mortgage industry and rent financing industry. So that is how the economy has affected us in terms of growth. So we just open up our platforms, to more partnership. Basically, that is what we've done.
Oh, thank you for that, Dapo. I didn't know that the pandemic was good and real estate space.
It was good initially, right? It was good initially.
He adds initially just to qualify.
Yeah, it was good initially, but
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for that. And just to follow up with that, what would you say are some best practices that we can pull from other countries, such as the UK, Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, in terms of advancing the property market?
So,
or any other country that comes to mind.
Yeah. So the real estate industry worldwide is like, for a lot of people, in terms of buying a property, is an emotional investment most of the time. Everybody wants to own a house. That is the way you know that you're doing well in life. In most cases, right? People buy a house, and that's like one of the biggest purchases, people do in their life. And also, but the problem we have in Nigeria here is the fact that the liquidity in the real estate industry is, is very poor. There's no enabling environment as much as a lot of policies, a lot of programs, a lot of product has been created by the public sector, but enforcing it has still been an issue, or making it readily available, or creating those products in tandem with the realities of Nigerians has been a problem, right? So I would say that enabling private sector to provide more liquidity in the industry is really, really important. It's always an expensive venture. Either you're buying or you're renting an apartment. I mean, people use over 40% of their annual earnings to rent an apartment. People have to work for like 30 years before they buy their first houses, right? So why does that have to happen, right? In other words, you can actually, buy your property through mortgage, and the rates are quite considerable. Here we are experiencing 19%, in some cases 25% per annum, right? And to rent a property, you have to cough out 40% of the annual salary to actually pay your rent. That is if the landlord is not even asking for 2 years rent, right? So in this case, I think one of the major things that we need to, that would allow the real estate industry boom in Nigeria, and I think one of the best practices, I think, is just creating liquidity, enabling that liquidity environment, like what RentSmallSmall is doing, right? They've been able to make it, they've been able to make individuals rent their apartment on a monthly basis. That creates a high level of affordability. As much as the person may be paying a premium, but it is still affordable because I don't have to drop a lump sum initially. So from my own point of view, I'll say creating liquidity is actually key.
All right, thank you very much, Dapo.
I'm sorry, one more thing. I'm sorry I skipped this part, which is one of the most important parts. Crucial is enforcing license of real estate practitioners, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are not trained to do that. They are just there for commissions, right? There are no rules, there are no policies that guide, how you have to engage, in renting an apartment as an agent, or in selling off an apartment, as a realtor to consumers. So enforcing licensing would make everything just better. Those people can be held accountable. Right now, we don't even know how many agents we have in the country. We don't know, because a barber is an agent, right? Somebody doing POS is also an agent, right? They have access to mobile phone. They can list on any platform, right? They are not even sure of the listings they're actually getting. That creates a nightmare, in the real estate industry, especially for the proptech, sector, for those of us that are doing search, or for those people that are even trying to consume those content, or use those content to actually make decisions, right? So licensing real estate practitioners are actually very important. That will create a lot of sanity in the industry as well.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Dapo. You're right, actually, because it's very common to hear people say, oh, I think anybody that can sort of serve as an intermediary somewhat feels like they're an agent automatically, right? And that's not, it's more than that, right? I know in other countries, I hear about people taking exams for that, but I don't know if it exists. Does it exist at all?
We have certain regulations. I think Lagos State is trying to, roll out some policies to enforce, real estate practitioners to be registered. But registration is not the only thing needed. People need to be trained. This is people are spending, like I said, people are spending 40% of their annual income on this. People are spending 10 to 20 years savings on this. Whoever is going to be delivering that service needs to be trained, right, to be able to deliver such service, right? So it is really, really crucial. And we just have individual cohorts, or maybe some small school here and there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if I'm searching for a house, is whoever's number that laptop that lands on my phone, that's who I call. I don't know who, as much as we try our utmost best to do verification. But we know that the rental industry has even left the professionals on it, right? It's now, to the guys who just picked up that as a day job or as a side hustle at the end of the day. So we just, look for ways to make sure that these guys have actually been in practice for a period of time before we actually onboard them on the platform. So
yeah. Right. Thank you, Dapo. That's that's a lot to think about, right? And I guess people that are thinking about, people that are doing it as a side hustle actually rethink, how to go about this. All right, just before we move on to getting questions from audience, they've sent in a lot of questions already. Just like to hear from everyone in terms of moving the prop tech space. And in case you want to add to anything he said, Kanyi or Naomi, but generally my question is, what kind of collaboration do you see from the private and public space to move this prop tech space forward before we move on to questions from the audience? So, Dapo, you can comment if you have any thoughts, then we'll go to Kanyi and Naomi. Just 1 minute.
Okay, sorry. So from in terms of moving the prop tech industry,
Collaboration.
I would say collaboration.
Private and public.
Yeah, I would say like what I said earlier, a lot of things need to be enforced, for things to go smoothly, right? Accessibility to data is actually very, very key. If those data collection can be enforced from the landlord to the tenant to the people buying or exchanging licenses on property, it will help us, it will give us a better picture of what is happening in the industry in terms of demand and supply, right? And I also think that, I spoke about trust earlier on. I feel that, we need to, how will I put it, creating an escrow system is actually one of the best things that can help us create trust in the industry, right? Because each party is accountable to a middle system that makes sure that, everybody, they are doing their own part, right? So I think, and the fact that we need more collaboration between the finance industry and the real estate industry. It is there, but it is not adequate. It's not as in sync as it should be, right? And I think all those things, property is not far from finance, right? That is why it is actually a relationship. So I feel that those collaborations are needed. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Dr. Kanyi. Any thoughts?
My thoughts are very similar to Dapo's thoughts, especially centered around the need for financing to meet provision. Government can implement policies that, and then they have, to be fair, they have tried to implement policies, but they can implement policies that make it more accessible to the average person. And I think that that's probably the first place. The second place is access to land and a lot of, regulation around land in itself. If government can actually just, do a lot more work around that, there's a lot of technology that can help them with that. So just be open to partner with private sector. And I think that's it. If they can provide one, proper checks and balances because of all the collapsed buildings that we're having. Two, finance and adequacy of accessibility to finance. And then I think third, just availability of land, subsidized land, and land, probably further out with policy that drives development in that direction. I think that's the biggest collaboration I can think about.
Okay. So, I think that, they both pretty much addressed it. There's, everybody just needs to know what part they need to play. The government, they don't need to get involved in construction, but they need to get involved in, providing the infrastructure, providing that enabling environment. It's a collaborative effort, as, everyone has said so far. And for the proptech industry to actually continue to move forward, there has to be that enforcement and also engagement from the private and the public sector. So, that's what we're looking forward to, continuous engagement, continuous collaboration and discussions around that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this has been, now to the questions. And I think something that's fascinating as well in the question is, it seems like there's a lot of money. We know that a lot of people invest in real estate, but for some reason, I'm hearing, oh, it's still not enough, right? So for all the money that's going to that space, we still need more. And now to the questions. It's one about NFT. All right, let me start here. So someone's asking, will it be possible to speed up the process of title registration by using NFTs? I'm not sure. I guess this is land or house. Is there an issue with that, the speed of registration? I know that it might take a while for people to get like deeds for land and stuff like that, but is that something that's a big deal? Anybody want to comment? Yeah, Dapo.
Okay, I really don't think, so the main problem with registration is the fact that it's been made slow on purpose, right? You know, the government has even partnered with several software developers and maybe other partners to create a system that can help that can make land registration work or sync the data together. But we know the issues, like we go to Alausa, we know the issues, right? So at the end of the day, the problem is the problem. It's been slowed down, or the process is just, it's been made frustrating on purpose, right? So that you can do what you have to do to get your documents, right? But and why blockchain, and all those tech will be good is because blockchain helps in a way whereby I don't have to be carrying paper all around to show that I have a license to a property, right? Or my name is the one attached to this kind of property. It's just like an unchangeable data. Once your name is against a particular parcel of property, right? It is there forever until it is made to change by a process of transaction, right? But things happen on the backside of things. You are doing, for every time somebody has to buy a house, they always have to go through the process of verifying the title of the property, verifying the ownership of the property, even having to go down physically in some cases to take mapping to be ensure that the document that I'm giving corresponds with the survey. Do you understand? So it's a whole lot of work, right? So the blockchain part of it is going to help in documenting, but you still need that physical activity to get it done. So yes, it will help create transparency. I think that's what that part will do. It will help create transparency. So
yeah, right. And the government definitely has to buy into that because this is a government. Every land belongs to the government. It has to flow from that. So thank you for that. That's very insightful to hear that despite efforts being made to make the process smoother, for some reason it's just still not as fast as it should be, right? Thank you very much, Dapo. Question about, I think we've answered this already, benefits of month-to-month for landlord, we've answered that already. But this question is also for Naomi. So it's asking, how has RentSmallSmall been able to manage payments collection from tenants, particularly when it's not consistent? Like, how do you manage that? Because I know one of the issues with monthly is that what happens if, someone cannot pay? Emergencies happen. How do you navigate that?
So, first of all, in terms of, I just wanted to touch on collaborations again. So usually payment is usually done through one of our collaborations with fintech companies. So whether that be Paystack or Flutterwave. So that's really how the payment transaction goes about. I was speaking to if a tenant is owing money or if a tenant goes in default. That's the question, right?
Yeah, like basically how you managing this collection. The issue where it's not, the fact that it's more frequent, like it's month on month or quarterly, means that there's people assume that defaults and all of that. How are you able to manage that?
So we've built a process around that. We built a system around that. And because it's a monthly payment, we have to be a bit more, should I say, very more structured in how I'm going to collect your rent. This is not 1 year upfront. We're collecting your rent every month. So there's rent reminders that go out. There are default notices that go out. We're very, very legally, should I say, legally immersed. So if there is, default after 2 days, unfortunately, we start taking out eviction proceedings against the tenant, because essentially when we take on a property from a landlord, we're given the power of attorney. And so immediately we start carrying out activities like eviction, serving quick notices and what have you. So when you get like a payment reminder and you're not able to pay or you're not able to make payment on your due date, then we already start our eviction proceedings. However, we do factor in issues, maybe you've not gotten your salary on time, you have financial issues. So sometimes, yes, that's factored in. There's that side of the security deposit as well. And we like to give a bit of accommodation for that. But again, everything has to be, there has to be checks and balances in place. So we're very, very particular about putting checks and balances in place. And that would see itself in our rent reminders, rent collection, and just the whole legal processes that goes when unfortunately we're not able to get the rent.
All right, thank you. I'm curious how much grace, because a month is such a short time. So how much grace do you, just to give some color around this, how much grace would you say you would give to a defaulting person? How many days? How does it work?
So we have a typical standard grace period of 5 days, but sometimes we like to treat things on a case-by-case basis. Like, there are some extenuating circumstances that you have to give more thought to. And so you don't want to be like, okay, we're going to throw you out of the apartment. But typically the standard grace period is 5 days, 5 days grace period, and then we start our eviction proceedings.
All right. Just a follow-up question to you, because this is here. Adenike is asking, she's seen a couple of this proptech that's, how can you strike the balance between making housing more affordable? She feels like the monthly payments are typically higher, and she says it's outrageous in her opinion, right? So how do you strike?
So how do we strike the balance? Well, I would say that one of the should I say, issues that we've encountered is even in the types of properties that are available, the demand of the kind of properties that are available. What people are looking to rent are usually studios, 1 bedrooms, the smaller units, right? So if, for example, now maybe a landlord gives us a 3-bedroom unit, which would normally go for, if we're doing monthly now, maybe that would go for, and I'm just using a rough number, maybe 300,000 naira every month. We would normally advise the landlord, let's convert this into studio units, right? So if you convert that into studio units, we're able to drive the price down, but also we're giving the landlord more return on his investment, because now he's getting, if you convert it into 3 studio units now, 3 studio units all shared, it doesn't have to be converted, so we can do shared. So we're renting out the rooms as shared. So it's just being able to strike that balance. So the tenant is getting something a bit lesser, but the landlord is still getting, return on his investment. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So that's the way that you're able to strike the balance, really understanding what the market is. The reason why it looks like these things are a bit expensive is because what is in the market is not really what people are demanding for. But if you see what the data is asking for, what people are demanding for is usually studios, 1 bedrooms, but what you have in the market is the 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms that are really, really expensive. So for us to be able to maybe drive it down so that people can be able to afford it, we would advise maybe converting them into smaller units or renting them out as bedrooms. So it will be a lot affordable for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Totally understood. So I think this might seem like something you've touched on, but Dapo, someone's asking, why is it difficult to get a 1-bedroom apartment and many flats on property listing sites? These houses are readily available, but we just never see the listings on listing sites, especially since they are the very affordable ones. Is that a thing?
It is difficult to get a 1-bedroom or studio apartment. Just like Naomi has said, that is the most demanded type of property. online or offline. In fact, I would say that a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment that's put out in the market today, if it makes it to still be available for the next 2 weeks, that means if it's still available after a month or maybe 3 weeks, that means the property is not. That means there's something seriously wrong with the property in most cases, right? So you find out that once the property is listed on the platform, in like a week's time, it is out of the market because that is the most, that's the most demanded, kind of property between studio apartment and 2 bedrooms. So the simple answer is because they're highly in demand. So that is why you really don't find them always being available. If something is available, that means somebody just moved out of it.
Yeah.
I hope I've been able to answer the question because we're breaking when.
Yeah, it sounds very, very, very simple. Thank you very much. So I'm going to this next question is for Coin. It says, Azubi said, I like how you highlighted the need to challenge how we build. How much does education contribute to this? In other countries, partnership between academia and private sectors revolutionizing this. What is your take?
First of all, thank you, Azubuike, for asking that question. I think it's a very, very good question. There's a lot to be desired in terms of education, especially around solving our problems. I mean, you look at global trends, a lot of countries have very similar problems to Nigeria. Everyone almost globally has a housing crisis. However, there's a lot of government challenge towards solving those problems. They're partnering with academia, they're partnering with schools, tertiary education facilities, research centers. And so there's a lot of work because I think I genuinely believe, one, that this is a problem that needs to be solved. There's really no doubt about it. And what's happening in the market is we're replicating the same thing over and over again. The question was asked about the availability of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and studios. Like Dapo said, there are not enough of them. And chances are they really wouldn't be building the way that we build. One, because land where these young people want to live or the people who want to live in 1 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms is too expensive. So we need to figure out a way that construction drives down the cost and we take advantage of underutilized land by being able to, one, the same way RentSmallSmall allows you to rent houses, being able to, one, build houses that are mobile and movable, not necessarily movable in the short term, but within the long term, so over a scale of 5 or 10 years, such that land can be rented and the homes that are built are starter homes rather than final dwelling places. So there's a lot of education, there's a lot of design-centered thinking, there's a lot of collaboration across board internationally as well. And this is also an appeal for a lot of funding. A lot of funding, first of all, has to go into the research part of it. And just to clarify on the 10-day house that I said that we can build, we're still in the research phase. It's not necessarily publicly available. It's prototyping. And so that's part of what we are doing and spending our own resources doing, trying to solve that problem and bring houses closer to the city, taking advantage of, say, for example, one of the 700 empty plots of land in Lekki that are all owned but empty. How do we put units on them without letting the landowners feel like we're taking over their property, giving them an opportunity to generate revenue on that land while a tenant is resident on that land without selling that land? So just find a win-win-win for all, win for government, win for the landowner, win for the developer, win for the end user. And I think that's what technology can do, especially hardware technology. And that's what a lot of research thinking, African-centered thinking, using our own choice of materials can do. So yeah, we need more collaboration with government, with universities, with education facilities, with grants. We just need a lot of collaboration there.
Oh, thank you very much, Kain. All right, at this juncture, I'd like to call for, so a poll is going to be shared by my colleague. A poll is going to come up right now. Yeah. We have 3 questions. So yeah, so you can start filling them. How have you tried getting an apartment through a proptech startup? What's the biggest problem? Yeah, so we have people filling in. Let's fill the questions. By the way, I'd like to call Joseph Olaoluwa, I don't know if you don't mind, ask your question via, ask your question, the mic, your mic, if you don't mind, the mic will be given to you and you can actually speak. Joseph has a number of questions here, including one about what can be done for Gen Zs. So curious. All right,
which one do you want me
sure.
to ask now? Is it the one I'm doing for Gen Zs, or I should start from the
No,
beginning?
just ask all your questions. I mean, it's directed to different people. Yeah, so it's yeah.
Okay. I wanted to, for question one, I directed it to the, I think the RentSmallSmall COO, founder. So sorry. I wanted to ask how many landlords are on the network. That I learned, when she was speaking earlier, she said that they're helping some landlords that are on the network. So I wanted to know, like, how many have they had empowered over the years? The second question I wanted to ask was about building collapse. We all know that the building collapsed, I think, is it this week now? And that's not the only one. There've been a lot of these occurrences happening. And the general conversation is that, the materials are substandard, or maybe there's a regulatory problem. Like one of the panelists said, we are building the same structures the same way. So, and so sometimes too, like what happened last year, it was a high-rise building that collapsed, and we don't know if you're at that level. I mean, I was in South Africa some 2 years ago, and there are a lot of high-rise in South Africa, but I don't know if Nigeria is ready for a high-rise. So with all these conversations around building collapse, what can we do to stem it? I would like all the panelists to speak about that. That's two. My final question is on affordable housing. So I want to know how we can have affordable housing for Gen Zs. That's people around the age of 20, 25. A lot of them are getting to the workspace now, and they don't have, like, their salaries cannot meet up with the annual rent. And it's not even about the fact that maybe they can actually pay monthly or not. It's just that sometimes when you consider the whole cost of even paying monthly or paying yearly, you're like, this is too much of my salary to even commit to this. And then aside that, there are also like small spaces, you rent an apartment that is like half of a, it's not tangible, maybe half of a toilet or something. Like, it's just very small, ridiculous space. You pay so much money for it as well. So I want all the panelists to also contribute to this. Like, how can they weigh in on a real solution to this menace of space and high rent? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Joseph. Okay, finalists.
Okay.
Yeah, Naomi.
I couldn't. The first, did he ask how many landlords we have?
Yeah, just to get a sense of how many landlords you help, right, in your network.
Okay. So so far, like, it's over 70 now, probably more. I think the beautiful thing about what we're doing at RentSmallSmall is just the foot soldiers that we've been getting with our landlords. Once they come on board and they see the experience and they really understand, what's the heart of what we're trying to do, you'd see that we don't even need to start selling ourselves or marketing ourselves to any other landlord. They're really our foot soldiers, and we start having conversation with other landlords on our behalf. So that's really just how we've been going, and we're really thankful that people are seeing, the solution that we're trying to solve, or the problem, that we're trying to solve. Yes.
All right, thank you. Then building collapse, I guess this is for everybody. So building collapse and affordable housing for, in this case, Joseph is advocating for Gen Zs. I guess millennials and other people should. But yeah, but I guess you can speak for affordable housing generally.
Affordable housing, I would say that, again, and this is what I think I initially touched on with buy to let. It's we've actually been having so many conversations with mortgage companies for the past 2 years, because we're trying to find a balance to how people can actually own properties. And it's still going back to what I said. You don't have to have that bulk sum available. Just as you said, Gen Zs, I don't know how much you're making a month. If I can just throw out a number, maybe 400,000, you want to buy maybe even a 2-bedroom in Lekki let's say for 50 million or 60 million, the numbers will not add up. It's not going to make sense to you because that's like you're making like 4.8 every per annum. So imagine you wanting to buy, a 50 million naira house. It's just you're going to just be feeling, you're demoralized, right? So, and that's where the whole understanding of you not needing to have all that money up front is coming from. So it's really just collaboration, how we're going to be able to collaborate with like mortgage companies, the government as well, providing access to funding. RentSmallSmall, buy-to-let actually, we're very intentional about providing payment plans. So you don't have to have all your money up front. We can actually come up with a payment plan for you. You do have to have maybe a bulk sum. And, things like that. Those are the kind of things that we're looking at to solve this, home ownership. But again, it's definitely a collaborative effort.
All right, thank you very much, Naomi. Konya and Olaghere, any thoughts on the other questions?
Okay, yes. Quick thoughts on I think the second question. I guess I'll try and answer the property collapse as well as I'll answer the property collapse as well as the property collapse as well as the second question for the Gen Zs. For property collapse, I think really it's pretty easy. Every proper developer knows the right thing to do. The question is whether they do it or not. We have a country of professionals, both on the government and that's the review and policy implementation side, and on the construction end. If we can avoid our simple issue of corruption here, I think we would have a lot less than we see today. I think that's it. It's easy. The technology is available. Construction is not brand new. There's nothing new that we're doing. Just follow the due process and actually just have it verified. And we would not have this problem. So eradicate corruption on the inside of all of us, and I think we would have solved that problem. For the Gen Zs, the answer to the Gen Zs, I actually think it's a very, very valid question because in the next 10 years, that's who we're developing for. And I think that it's important to start solving their problems today. There are lots of international concepts that are available for Gen Z living. The question that is always put before them is what are you willing to compromise for the type of living that you want to live? So for example, there's social housing, there's co-living, there's the co-living situations that happen, there's influencer housing. There are all sorts of different terminologies for collaborative living, but there's a compromise. If you're going to influencer housing, you're living with a bunch of people doing the same thing. If you are going to co-living, then all of you are sharing your expenses and using communal spaces. Now, the newest one, and I think one that I'm an advocate for, but it's probably a lot further down the line, is something called subscription housing, where essentially what you do is, what you're trading off is reduced rents or nominal fees as little as $200, $300 to $100, $200 a month, as little as that, in exchange for corporations being able to advertise to you in your home. So there are all sorts of solutions that exist and compromises that you must be willing to take if a corporation is funding your housing, for example, or if a bigger organization, say, for example, I'm throwing a company in the air, Coca-Cola, decides to sponsor a house where they take on the cost for development, but in turn can advertise their goods within the house. That way, your rental cost can be subsidized by the bigger corporation. You can live for free, but what you're trading off is your privacy in that sense. So there are trade-offs that exist, and hopefully as we solve the mortgage problem, we solve the access to credit problem, we solve the data problem, then we'll be able to come closer to. But I think thinking around the Gen Z workspace and how they live and their current earning capacity, I think solutions exist, whether they exist in Nigeria today and how far the technology and how willing the people are to experiment on these ideas. I think that's the question. Can the Gen Z compromise for the type of housing that they need, considering the current expense of building and developing?
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't know that existed actually. Subscription housing, I like the sound of that. All right, Dapo.
Hopefully we'll see it in Nigeria soon. It's one of the things we're pushing for, so we'll see. We'll see how it works.
Sure.
So I think Kanyinsade and Naomi has actually nailed the question. They gave the right answers. For me, I feel that in terms of necessity to solve the housing problem, it's not only to Gen Z this time around. I feel that everybody's feeling the pain across board, from their own perspective. So affordability is not a Gen Z problem in Nigeria, right? So, it's everybody. It's literally the 90% of, independent population's problem, right? So at the end of the day, I think Kanyinsade gave good examples of how, affordability can actually be solved. So that's my perspective.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to follow up on that, last question to you, Dapo. Someone's asking, when would the video feature be live? Is it under consideration? Going for inspections in a city like Lagos while working is exhausting. You all know that pictures don't cut it, all right? So they want to see, yeah.
Yeah, I think we actually presently have like a video feature, right, where users can actually, agents or property developers can actually take videos of our apartment and actually upload it when they are posting properties, right? But enforcing it also has actually been a problem. You cannot enforce, videos across board. So, but what we're trying to do right now is to prioritize listings with more accurate information, or more, to put more attention on them, so that when users come to the website, they can actually tell that this particular property has the right information. It's more accurate than the rest. So what we're trying to do right now is just to prioritize, listings with more accurate information. So you can actually tell that this has this and this doesn't have this. And you might need to know exactly how to engage on each of those kind of listings.
Okay, thank you very much. So someone's asking, and this is a general question, but I think next question is also to Coin and Naomi. The first, there's how do you even define affordable housing? And then there are general questions about expanding outside of Nigeria, right? That's Coin and Naomi. But I think the question about defining affordable housing is actually quite important, because it's just a word we've been throwing up and down. Yeah. So Coin or Naomi. So there's that. Then there's a question of, are you thinking about expanding outside of Nigeria?
I think affordability it's very, very relative. It's really depending on who you're asking. Again, for us at RentSmallSmall, what we really focus on is convenience. So it's very, very relative. Affordability is different to you, it's different to me. So we like to focus on really convenience.
Okay.
So what was the second question?
Expansion. Also, are you thinking about expanding outside of Nigeria?
Oh yes, definitely. We have plans to expand to Ghana. This rental issue is not just peculiar to Nigeria. You have it in Ghana. Even in Canada, apparently, that some of them are experiencing this kind of things. But Ghana, some other African countries. So we're looking at expanding to Ghana by next quarter. We've recently just expanded to Abuja as well. This is a problem that it's not. I wouldn't say it's worldwide, but it's definitely very, very pervasive in a lot of African countries.
All right, thank you very much, Queen.
Sorry, can you ask the question again real quick?
So the first question about how do you define affordable housing? And also, are you thinking about, expanding outside of Nigeria?
Okay. First, to answer the first question, like Naomi said, it's relative. How we chose to look at it as a business, because affordable housing really, that's our client base. That's who we're designing for. That's who we're building for. We looked at it by trying to figure out what the mean income is in the country, what the average income is in the country, trying to figure out who that person is, and then designing for that person. Affordable housing in Nigeria is very, very different from affordable housing in Europe, for example. Because of the earning capacity. So what we are trying to do is actually probably designed for the middle class or lower middle class Nigerian who probably earns, sub 300,000 Naira a month. So I think that's how affordable for us is different from affordable for everybody else, but affordable really should be the mean ability to pay or expend capital. And then to answer the second question about expanding beyond Nigeria, The dream is of course to expand beyond Nigeria. In fact, in many ways, we would have hoped that we started somewhere else and then came here, because the country seems to adopt what is coming from outside. However, to solve the housing problem anywhere is to solve it globally. The same technology can be applied anywhere. You just need to make sure that you're operating within building codes of the country that you're working in and design codes of the country that you're working in, and follow the architectural and design standards. So we do plan to expand too. We've gotten a lot of interest from Europe, from Ghana, from Cameroon, across the country once we put out the first documentation of our prototype. And there's a lot of demand for it. We just need to make sure that our technology and our building capacity can service that demand, which is why we're once again calling for a lot of interest in the supply end and the technology end, the hardware technology end of building.
All right, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this session. I would just like to give our speakers do you have any closing remarks for people? Any closing remarks? Anything you want to just highlight or reemphasize? Dapo, Naomi, Kanyi, anything? Okay, Dapo. Dapo wants to say something.
So I just wanted to say thank you for hosting this. We don't have a lot of proptech sessions like this, so you guys actually do a good job. And thanks for everybody who participated, right? And and thanks for Kanyinsade and Naomi. You guys shared a lot of light, in the discussion, right? So it was great having you guys involved.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. And
All
again,
right.
I think I keep on hammering on this, but I can't overstress the importance of collaboration for us to move forward, as an economy and even just in the ecosystem as well. So it's very key. Thank you.
I'm going to add really quick to Naomi as well. I would love at least the three of us in this conversation to at least have another conversation offline. I think that every one of us is solving a problem for the other person. So I think, once again, collaboration is very important. Thank you to TC for inviting us to be able to speak. And then this is my final advocacy. Please, just anyone who's interested in this space, go at it. It's a problem that's bigger than all of us. We can never have too many people trying to solve the problem. The market is big enough for every single person. So if you're thinking about it and innovating around it, then keep pushing for it. My 2 cents.
I know there are so many questions. Sorry about this. There's so many questions we couldn't answer, but you can definitely share your questions with us, or you can send it directly to the panelists. I'm sure they'll be more than willing to actually answer your questions. Reach out to them on social media. Just find them and you'll be able to get in touch with them. Fortunately, we can't answer all questions. Thank you everyone for joining. All right, we're going to be having a session on the 20th of May, building a new generation of angel investors with Tommy Davis and Biola Alabi. They'll be talking about how you can get started as an angel investor in Africa. So looking forward to see people come. I'm really excited to see how many people join, talking about property. Looking forward to host another one because this is an ongoing conversation. Everyone, you can link. My colleague Damilare shared the link to register for the next event. Thank you, everyone. There's also a post-event survey. We'd like to know what you think about the event and how we can make it better. So please fill the survey so we can improve on this event. Once again, this event has been put together by TechCabal, TC Insights, which is an African-focused digital economy consultancy that leverages data to help startups, investors, operators, big tech companies, governments, and other ecosystem players on and off the continent answer specific questions and implement key interventions. Thank you, everyone, for coming. To everyone that shared a question that couldn't be answered, please feel free to reach out. Reach out, and I'm sure your questions will get answered. Send it to us, send it to them. We definitely get a response to your question. Thank you, everyone. Just don't forget to subscribe to TC Daily, the most comprehensive roundup of African tech news stories. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.